In today's video, I am going to share with you the resume that got me into ISB. Hi everyone, welcome to Insider Gyaan. My name is Soumi. I'm an IIT Delhi and ISB Hyderabad grad, and on this channel I share a lot about my career experiences from the last 10 plus years, a lot about consulting, Microsoft Excel, educational content, MBA related content. So if any of those things interest you, please consider subscribing to the channel. The reason I'm making today's video is because a lot of questions keep coming up on, what kind of a profile gets selected into ISB or some of the top business schools. IIMs are a little different because over there, slightly less focus on profile and a lot more focus on CAT score. But schools like ISB or Ivy League colleges, a lot of focus on profile. Now, at ISB or any of the other Ivy League schools, there are really 4 parts of evaluation. One is the resume. Second is going to be the essays that you write. Thirdly, the interview that happens. And lastly, the references that you will submit of your bosses or your college professors, etc. Now, if we talk about resume gives an idea to the evaluators about what your profile looks like, what you have done, what are your achievements, etc. The essays try to understand you more as a person. Who are you beyond your profile and achievements? Interview is to see what kind of a person you are, how your spoken English and interpersonal skills are, and of course to validate whether whatever you have written makes sense or not, if it's true or not. And lastly, the references really help because it's not just you who thinks you are the best fit for that college, but there are other people who are there to vouch for you. So as I walk you through my ISB resume, I'm going to keep sharing what are some of the things that could have worked in my favor, which are some of the things that didn't go in my favor or was not really relevant, and also give you some bits on what ISB is actually looking for as well. Just for context, I got into ISB with a scholarship, with an academic scholarship, which sort of reduced my fees by about half. And in case you are eager to check that video out, how I got scholarship, which ones I got, going to link that up over here as well. Okay, now let's get started. I have my resume in front of me, which I'm not going to share directly on the screen because of obviously confidentiality and privacy issues, but let's get started. So the first part is about education. So firstly, what is ISB looking for in education? They're looking for your smartness, intellectual ability, your analytical skills, etc. For me, my undergrad was, like I had mentioned earlier, IIT Delhi. I had a 7.9 GPA, just short of 8, which bugs me a lot. In boards, I had 85 to 87%, not anything very stellar. In both, actually, 10th and 12th. My GMAT score was 760, which was in the 98th percentile. And, even though I had average grades, I think what could have stood in my favor is that my college branding, of course, IIT Delhi. And secondly, the GMAT score was good as well. So these two sort of proved to ISB about a little bit more about my analytical ability. But I also want to put it out there that if you are not from a tier 1 college and you have a really good GPA, that goes in your favor as well, along with a good GMAT score, of course. Other than that, within education, I also had a rank of 32 in GATE, which I'm not sure if it is as relevant, but the rank is good. And I had a CFA certification, not the full level 3, all the levels, but just level 1. So that's something that I had mentioned as well. Okay, so now moving to WorkX. Now WorkX would usually cover the full-time experience and internships. Now what ISB is going to look for in the WorkX section is, of course, how much of business knowledge you already have, or if you have done something good in the direction you want to take your career into. So this part is eventually going to tie into your Y MBA as well, plus evidences of leadership, especially if you are a tenured person with 5+ years of WorkX. So I'm going to firstly start with the internships. I had done an internship at Seoul National University in South Korea. I also did one at Biocon in Bangalore. Both were technical research based internships, which is why I don't think it's as relevant for MBA, and maybe this point, like my internships, would not have added much value to my overall ISB profile. Then if I move to my full-time experiences, I started working at this company called Grail Research, which is a market research company, kind of market research for strategy consulting. Now, I worked very less amount of time over here, less than 6 months, which again is why I think it is not as valuable to my profile. But at the same time, it was at least businessy, like it was MBA relevant stuff that I was doing. Over here, I analyzed companies and sectors, I estimated market sizes, did some primary and secondary research. So all businessy stuff, but very short tenure. I think one achievement that I had mentioned was I was the only fresher to lead 3 management trainees to bring a project to completion. So some evidence of leadership there. Again, it's 6 months, less than 6 months, so not very relevant. Next, moving on to my most significant experience, which was at JP Morgan. Over here, I was working as an equity research analyst. Now, this was slightly significant because of the tenure. I was over here for about 2 years. Plus also, obviously, quite relevant from analytical skills perspective as well, because it's finance at the end of the day. I was doing a lot of financial modeling over here. I was analyzing a lot of companies, a lot of industries, using various metrics, data backed, etc. I was writing investment theses for different sectors and companies. Plus, of course, because it was the finance field, it was business relevant as well. Then I had some small points on leadership during my work at JP Morgan as well. So one I've mentioned is automated a periodic client report, improving efficiency of response time to clients by 42%, and something on proactiveness, because I was just working with the US teams, which meant that I had to be flexible with timings, and the team lead and the lead analyst also trusted me with writing an India-based report. Although I was covering the US markets, he trusted me with writing an India-based industry report for CROs, which is more like clinical research organizations. So just small tidbits, which definitely I think added some value to my overall work. Now moving on to the extracurriculars and interests. Now, why ISB wants to know about your extracurriculars and interests is because they want to know you as a person, like what makes you whole, what do you do beyond your what do you do beyond academics and all the serious stuff. So this one I've broken down into 2 parts again. One is leadership related evidences, where I had held several leadership positions or positions of responsibility, and the other is the extracurricular activities or the interests part of things. In IIT Delhi, actually, I held a lot of PORs because that is what I was more into. I was the convener of the Academic Interaction Council, which is sort of like the highest student governing body, and it meant that I had to represent my class, and if there are any issues the class was facing, I bring it up. If there are any key messages from the student body they have to take back to the class, I did those things. Next, I was also one of the lead coordinators of Rendezvous. So Rendezvous is like one of the biggest college festivals in northern India. It's a lot of footfall and it's quite popular. And every year, 3rd year students usually arrange or manage the whole event. It's a big 4 or 5 day event, and there are about 22 coordinators. I was one of them. So this was quite big. I was responsible for managing some of the events and keeping an eye on the prize money, looking into how much sponsorship we got, so on and so forth basically. Other than that, I was also the hostel representative of music club and also Board of Students publication. Board of Students publication is more like something that monthly magazines for the college, and also organize the literary festival of IIT Delhi. As a music club rep as well, I had won my hostel a few awards, so that was significant. Then I was the alumni secretary of my hostel, and basically one of the leadership points I had over here was I took initiative to actually build a alum database, which did not really exist before. Other than that, I organized alum fests or events, etc. In terms of extracurriculars, I had a diploma in music, in Hindustani classical music. I had won some small awards. I was awarded the Young Scientist by National Children's Science Congress. It was quite long back, so might not have been as relevant, but just sounded nice, Other than that, I had a couple of awards in debate, music, etc. I was also associated with an NGO. I was working with an NGO which sort of devoted its time towards Mumbai slum dwellers. So generally, I feel my extracurrics and POR section is quite strong. So that was all about my resume. Now, every profile at ISB can be categorized into 3 categories, I feel. One is a fully academically oriented one where you are the topper of your college probably. You have great GMAT scores, you're from the best college, and you have a lot of projects, internships, certifications to talk about. The other kind of profile is more leadership driven where you have a lot of extracurricular activities or positions of responsibility to talk about and must have done really impactful things outside work as well. Could have had some patents or won some national level awards in some sports or music, etc. Those kind of things. And the next one is a balance of both, and the third one is a balance of both. So personally, I feel that my profile is a little bit of everything, so it was a balanced profile that way. There are no real spikes as such, but overall it was a good profile. I had some international experience, I had some good internships, I was associated with a few good brands in terms of undergrad and also the companies that I worked for. I had a little bit of business knowledge as well, some leadership and interests beyond work. So yeah, that's it, and hope it gave you guys some idea about what kind of profiles get selected into ISB. But also do remember that your profile is just one part of your entire application. Your overall application is a mix of all the 4 things that I talked about in the initial part of the video. And in addition to all of those things, you also need to convince the evaluators that an MBA really makes sense for you, like why you are doing MBA. Will it really be meaningful for your career progression? That's about it. If you have any questions, follow-ups, drop them in the comments and I'll probably reply back to you. And yeah, that's about it. Please like, share, subscribe, do the usual, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Till then, bye.